Welcome to Ifa Stories, where ancient wisdom meets modern storytelling. Step into the sacred tradition of Ifa, rooted in Yoruba land and shaped through centuries of interaction with neighboring West African cultures and preserved in the Lukumi tradition of the diaspora. Here we engage the Ifa divination corpus, the sacred Odu through which Orunmila reveals insight into destiny and moral order, reflected in the lives of Orisha, Irunmole, Awos, communities, and all who seek guidance. These are not distant myths, but living teachings, bridges between past and present, illuminating responsibility, consequence, and the human path. Honor the wisdom. Reflect on destiny. Journey with us into the heart of Ifa. Subscribe and let the stories speak. Learn more at ifastories.com. Introductory note. This retelling draws on a traditional account as presented in Ifism, Volume 3, The Complete Works of Orunmila, The Odus of Oyeku Meiji, by C. Osamaro Ibi. The narration and commentary in this presentation are original to Ifa Stories. Cinematic narrative of Ifa Stories. Oyeku-Obara's works on earth. Odu, Ifa Oyeku Kpalaba. There are stories where a person hears sacred instruction, but still walks forward as if strength alone were enough. This is the story of Oyeku-Obara, an Ifa priest whose road began with conflict, passed through danger, and returned to the obligation he had first left unfinished. It is not only a story about fighting. It is a story about what happens when Ifa speaks, and the command is heard, but not yet fulfilled. In the world of this story, movement is not separated from divination. A journey can carry danger. A road can require preparation. And a person who carries Ifa must still answer to sacred instruction. Before Oyeku-Obara entered the road toward Ogun, Ifa had already spoken. The matter had already been placed under divine order. But Oyeku-Obara trusted what had always carried him before, his strength in combat. Oyeku-Obara was known as a pugnacious Ifa priest. He often fought those who crossed his path. One day, he decided to travel to the land of Ogun, not to greet him, not to seek peace, but to fight him. Before he went, he consulted Ifa, and Ifa gave him a warning. He should not proceed on the journey without first serving his head and Eshu. But Oyeku-Obara did not consider the sacrifice necessary. No previous combat had overcome him, so he trusted the history of his strength more than the instruction he had received. The instruction was clear. He was to serve his head. He was to serve Eshu. And he was not to continue the journey without doing so. The story does not give a complete ritual procedure. It gives the obligation. It gives the warning. It gives the sacred order that should have come before the road. But Oyeku-Obara moved forward without completing what Ifa had named. The forgotten obligation did not disappear. It traveled with him. Oyeku-Obara reached the town and found it in disorder. There was commotion everywhere. When he asked what had happened, he was told that someone had just been murdered in the town. The man who had come to fight now entered a place already filled with danger. So he hid beside a palm tree. But hiding beside the palm tree was not enough. There, beside the palm tree, Oyeku-Obara removed his cane from his waist and asked what he should do. His own Odu, Ifa Oyeku Kpalaba, appeared. He was told that the side of the palm tree could not give him sufficient protection. He was told to hide inside a hole. So he entered a concealed hole. But he did not know that a boa was already inside. He sat on the boa's head. The boa complained that battle had driven it into the hole and wondered who had dared to sit upon its head. Oyeku-Obara explained that he had entered the hole for refuge because the people of the town were looking for a stranger who had entered their domain. The boa warned him that the people were watchful and that they would soon search for both of them inside the hole. Then smoke began to enter. It moved into the concealed space and drove Oyeku Kpalaba out. The boa refused to leave the hole. And the boa said, "A snake never dies in the hole." Then the boa dug deeper inside the hole and hid its head there to protect itself from the smoke. When Oyeku Kpalaba came out of the hole, he was apprehended. He warned those who seized him not to arrest, manhandle, imprison, or kill him because he was an Ifa priest. The source states that it is forbidden to arrest, manhandle, or jail an Ifa priest. But his captors insisted on taking him to the Oba's palace. Before the Oba, Oyeku Kpalaba was asked to identify himself. He disclosed that he was an Ifa priest and that his name was Oyeku-Obara. The Oba then ordered that a house be prepared for him. He also ordered that Oyeku-Obara be persuaded to explain what had brought him into the town. Oyeku-Obara revealed that he had come to fight Ogun, but he was told that this was not Ogun's town. It was the town of Uja, the wife of Ogun, who was the force and power behind him. The road that began as a journey toward conflict was redirected. The people prevailed on Oyeku-Obara to remain in the town and practice Ifa there. And he remained. He prospered in the town, but even prosperity did not erase the forgotten obligation. He still had not made the sacrifice to his head and Eshu. Later, Oyeku-Obara arranged for a wife to be sent to him from his own town, but he was told that it was forbidden to bring a bride into the town unless he went to another town to marry her. Because of this matter, he consulted Ifa again. And when he consulted Ifa, he was reminded of the sacrifices he had earlier been told to make. The old instruction returned. The forgotten obligation stood before him again. At that point, Oyeku-Obara served his head with a cock. He served Eshu with a he-goat. And after this correction, he prospered immensely. This story preserves the importance of ritual obligation, but it does not teach ritual procedure. It tells us that Oyeku-Obara was instructed to serve his head and Eshu. It tells us that he later served his head with a cock and Eshu with a he-goat. It also tells us that when this Odu appears at Ugbodu, Ifa should be served with another goat, and that at ordinary divination, Eshu should be served with a he-goat without delay. But the story does not provide a complete procedural manual. Any practical ritual explanation would require source verification and practitioner review. The story's resolution is not only prosperity. It is remembered instruction. It is the return to what Ifa had already spoken. Oyeku-Obara prospered after correcting what had been left undone. The road of conflict had become a road of exposure, recognition, settlement, renewed consultation, and ritual completion. Within the divinatory frame of this story, the source preserves further instruction. When this Odu appears at Ugbodu, the person should serve Ifa with another goat because of an impending catastrophe. The person should also be told that there is a sick person in the house where the Ifa initiation ceremony is taking place. The initiate should be told never to arrange a wife for anyone, because his Ifa forbids it. And at ordinary divination, the person should serve Eshu with a he-goat without delay to avoid danger of attack by robbers. These instructions must remain inside the sacred and divinatory frame of the Odu. They are not general modern advice. They are not public ritual procedure. They are preserved warnings, and they require ritual precision. This story teaches that sacred instruction is not fulfilled by hearing alone. A person may be strong, a person may be skilled, a person may even prosper for a time. But when Ifa has named an obligation, the matter remains unfinished until the obligation is completed. The story of Oyeku-Obara should be read as a cautionary tale, not as a heroic fight story. Oyeku-Obara is an Ifa priest, a person who carries divination, sacred instruction, and spiritual responsibility. He is not someone without access to guidance. He consults Ifa. He receives warning. He knows that a road should not be entered carelessly. But he also carries a strong tendency to fight. This is the first danger in his character. He decides to go toward Ogun, not to greet him, not to learn from him, not to seek settlement, and not to honor him, but to fight. The source presents him as pugnacious, a person already inclined toward confrontation. This means the story is not asking the listener to admire his aggression. It is warning the listener to observe what a fighting nature can produce when it is not disciplined. Before he travels, Ifa gives him instruction. He is told not to proceed without first serving his head and Eshu. This instruction directly addresses both the person and the road. His head points to inner alignment, judgment, destiny, and spiritual center. Eshu points to boundary, movement, consequence, and the proper order of action. Before Oyeku-Obara moves outward toward conflict, Ifa directs him inward, toward correction, and toward the forces that govern movement. But Oyeku-Obara does not complete what Ifa commands. He trusts his history of fighting more than the warning he has received. He has fought before. He has not been overcome before. His emotional state before the journey is shaped by confidence, pride, combativeness, and the belief that past strength will be enough for the present road. That is his mistake. He hears Ifa, but he does not allow Ifa's instruction to govern his movement. This connects to the wider Ifa pattern seen in the story of Osameji/Oshe Meiji. In that story, the figure's repeated fighting and wrestling with divine beings does not simply prove power. It creates fear around him. His own fighting tendency becomes a warning sign. The good things of heaven, his own spiritual support, and other Orisha withhold themselves from him because his disposition threatens what should have blessed him. His strength becomes a barrier. His conduct blocks blessing, ashe, and acceptance. It is only when his father appears and pleads for him that the situation begins to turn. That detail is important because Osameji's strength alone cannot repair what his fighting nature has damaged. He needs intervention, pleading, recognition, and correction. His problem is not lack of power. His problem is power without restraint. That comparison helps us understand Oyeku-Obara more clearly. Oyeku-Obara's desire to fight Ogun should not be praised as bravery. It should be read as the same kind of warning. A powerful sacred figure whose fighting nature has not yet been brought under discipline. Like Osameji, he carries force, but force alone does not bring blessing. Force without restraint can isolate a person, expose a person, and carry a person into suffering. In both stories, the real resolution is not that the fighter proves himself stronger than everyone else. The real resolution is that the fighter is corrected. Osameji must learn that his violent reputation has caused blessing and divine support to withdraw from him. Oyeku-Obara must learn that his fighting ambition, pride in past victories, and unfinished instruction have carried him into danger. This is why Oyeku-Obara's road does not unfold as he expects. He thinks he is going to confront Ogun. He imagines the road as a path toward a chosen fight. But because he moves under pride and without completing Ifa's instruction, The road leads him into a conflict he did not choose and cannot control. He enters a town already marked by disorder. Someone has been murdered. The people are not calm. They are alert, suspicious, and searching for danger. Oyeku-Obara came looking for a fight, but he enters a place where violence has already happened before he arrives. He thought he was walking toward a direct confrontation with Ogun, but instead he walks into a public crisis where a stranger can easily become a suspect. This is the consequence of movement without alignment. The man who came prepared to fight is now unprepared for the situation he actually meets. Emotionally, this is a major reversal. Before the journey, he carries confidence and fighting ambition. Once he enters the troubled town, that confidence becomes caution. He can no longer move openly as the fighter he imagined himself to be. He becomes watchful. He hides beside a palm tree. The one who came seeking confrontation now seeks protection. But the palm tree cannot protect him. He removes his cane from his waist and consults. His own Odu, Ifa Oyeku Kpalaba, appears and tells him that the side of the palm tree is not enough protection. He is told to hide inside a hole. This shows that Ifa is still guiding him, even after he neglected the first instruction. But it also shows how far the consequence has developed. The man who trusted physical courage is now being instructed where to hide. He enters the hole, but he does not know that a boa is already inside. The boa is not a monster. The boa is a teacher through nature. It belongs to the hidden place in a way Oyeku-Obara does not. Oyeku-Obara enters the hole as a temporary refuge, but the boa knows the hole as its own environment. This mirrors Oyeku-Obara's larger situation. Just as he entered the town without understanding its condition, he enters the hole without understanding what already lives there. In both places, he is a stranger. In both places, he enters too quickly. In both places, he does not yet understand the deeper reality of where he has arrived. When smoke enters the hole, the difference between Oyeku-Obara and the boa becomes clear. Oyeku-Obara is driven out. The boa remains and says, "A snake never dies in the hole." Then the boa digs deeper and hides its head to protect itself. This line carries a teaching that Oyeku-Obara should hear and respect. The snake survives by knowing its own nature and knowing its own place. It does not survive by fighting the smoke in the open. It survives by depth, concealment, patience, and belonging. Oyeku-Obara, by contrast, has been moving through confrontation. His nature has been to go outward, to fight, to challenge, and to prove strength. But the boa teaches another kind of power. The power of knowing when to go deeper, when to withdraw, when to preserve life, and when to respect the wisdom of the environment. The boa's wisdom also reflects the town itself. Oyeku-Obara did not know the town he entered. He did not know the danger already present there. He did not know the authority behind the place. In the same way, he did not know the whole. The boa knows the hidden place better than he does. The snake's wisdom becomes a mirror to his lack of caution. But Oyeku-Obara cannot remain hidden. Smoke drives him out, and he is apprehended. This is the critical turning point. The man who came as a fighter is now captured as a stranger. But when he is seized, he does not fight the people of the town. This is very important. The story does not show him defeating them by physical strength. He does not overcome them through combat. Instead, he announces his identity as an Ifa priest. He warns them not to arrest, molest, or kill him, because he is an Ifa priest. This moment must be interpreted carefully. He was prepared to fight Ogun, but now he faces the consequence of being seized, imprisoned, mistreated, or killed by people who see him as a suspicious stranger. This creates a deeper consciousness in him. The situation forces him to understand that fighting is no longer the answer. The road has placed him in danger where strength cannot solve the problem. His statement does not erase his consequence. It does not mean he can use Ifa as a shield for pride. It does not mean a person carrying Ifa can act recklessly and then avoid responsibility. Instead, the opposite happens. His identity as an Ifa priest makes the contradiction more visible. A person entrusted with Ifa should not be governed by reckless fighting. A person who consults Ifa should not ignore Ifa's warning. A person who carries sacred responsibility should not move as if anger, pride, and past victories are greater than instruction. So when Oyeku-Obara announces that he is an Ifa priest, the story is not giving him permission to escape consequence. It is forcing him to stand before the responsibility of what he claims to carry. He is still apprehended. He is still taken before the Oba. He is still questioned. He still has to explain why he came. He still has to face the fact that he entered the town for the purpose of fighting. And later, he still has to return to the sacrifice he neglected. This is not escape. This is accountability under sacred recognition. What began as the bravery of a fighter must now become the dignity and responsibility of a person who carries Ifa. This is the emotional correction of the story. Before the road, Oyeku-Obara acts from confidence, pride, and combative will. In the town, he becomes cautious, hidden, and exposed. In the whole, he learns that another being understands hidden survival better than he does. When he is seized, he cannot rely on force. Before the Oba, he must identify himself and explain his intention. Later, before Ifa, he must return to the obligation he left unfinished. This shows that a person cannot simply change only because danger appears and then claim dignity without correction. Danger may awaken awareness, but awareness must be followed by responsibility. Oyeku-Obara's statement that he is an Ifa priest begins a turning point, but the story does not end there. He still must be redirected, settled, and eventually returned to the original instruction. When he is brought before the Oba, the matter turns again. The Oba asks him to identify himself. He gives his name and identifies himself as an Ifa priest. A house is prepared for him. He is persuaded to explain what brought him into the town. He reveals that he came to fight Ogun. Then the deeper truth is revealed. This is not Ogun's town. It is the town of Uja, the wife of Ogun, who is described as the force and power behind him. This detail deserves real attention. Uja is not a passive spouse. She represents hidden authority, relational power, and the unseen force behind visible strength. Ogun is not diminished by this. Rather, the story expands the meaning of Ogun's power. It shows that visible force may be supported by deeper, relational, feminine, household, or hidden power. Oyeku-Obara thought he understood the conflict. He thought he knew who he was going to confront. But he did not understand the town, the authority of the place, or the power behind the visible figure of Ogun. This means his fighting ambition was based on an incomplete reading of reality. He did not complete Ifa's instruction. He did not understand the town. He did not know the wisdom of the hidden place. He did not know the force behind Ogun. He did not yet understand that strength without restraint can lead to exposure. His real victory is not defeating Ogun. His real victory is being redirected away from reckless combat and returned to Ifa's instruction. Even after Oyeku-Obara settles in the town and prospers, the unfinished obligation remains. Prosperity does not erase what Ifa first commanded. Later, through the matter of marriage restriction, he consults Ifa again and is reminded of the sacrifices he had earlier neglected. The old instruction returns because sacred instruction remains active until fulfilled. He then serves his head with a cock and serves Ishu with a he-goat. After this correction, he prospers greatly. This ritual correction must be handled carefully. The story preserves ritual seriousness, but it does not provide a public ritual procedure. It names the obligation and the materials, but it does not teach a complete ritual manual. Any practical ritual explanation would require source verification and practitioner review. The closing warnings also remain inside the divinatory frame of the Odu. They should not be turned into broad modern rules about illness, women, marriage, danger, or punishment. The story should not be used to blame vulnerable people. Its warnings are specific, sacred, and context-bound. Modern interpretation. For a modern listener, this story is not simply saying, a person missed a sacrifice, so danger came. That would be too narrow. The story is showing how a pattern of behavior can carry a person toward consequence. Oyeku-Obara's pattern is fighting. He is used to conflict. He trusts his ability to win. He moves toward Ogun because that is his nature. But Ifa warns him that the road requires preparation first. He hears the warning and still moves forward. In modern terms, this can describe any person who has a habit of entering conflict before becoming inwardly settled. A person may not be going to fight in Orisha, but they may enter a workplace argument, family dispute, public confrontation, community conflict, or spiritual disagreement with the same emotional pattern. I know how to win. I know how to handle this. No one has defeated me before. That mindset can be dangerous. The person may think they are acting from courage, but the deeper force may be pride, anger, insecurity, reputation, or the need to be recognized as powerful. The person may believe they are prepared because they have won before, but past victory does not mean present wisdom. This is why the story matters today. It teaches that strength should not move faster than wisdom. Anger should not move faster than reflection. A title, role, spiritual gift, education, position, or reputation should not be used to justify reckless behavior. For someone who carries religious or community responsibility, the lesson is even more serious. A person entrusted with Ifa, community guidance, elderhood, ritual knowledge, or public trust must not allow ego to lead. That responsibility requires more restraint, not less. The person must be careful with speech, movement, anger, conflict, and the way they use influence. For a regular person, the teaching is just as useful. A person does not need to be an Ifa priest to have a fighting nature. Some people fight with words. Some fight with silence. Some fight through control. Some fight through public embarrassment. Some fight by always needing to win. Some fight by entering every disagreement as if it were a battle. The story asks that person to pause. What road am I about to enter? Am I entering it with wisdom or with ego? Did I receive good advice and ignore it? Am I using my title, strength, knowledge, or reputation to avoid accountability? Am I walking into a troubled situation without understanding who or what is already involved? Am I trying to prove power when I should be seeking correction? This is not cowardice. It is disciplined restraint. Disciplined restraint does not mean weakness. It means the person has enough self-command not to be dragged by every provocation. It means knowing that not every challenge deserves a fight. It means recognizing that some roads require preparation before movement. It means understanding that the highest victory may be correction, not conquest. The boa gives a modern lesson here as well. The snake does not survive by performing power for others. It survives by knowing its environment. It knows the whole. It knows when to go deeper. It knows how to preserve itself according to its own nature. Oyeku-Obara does not have that kind of relationship with the town or the whole. He enters both as a stranger. He does not understand the troubled town, and he does not understand the hidden place. The boa's teaching reveals what he lacks: patience, environmental awareness, and respect for the wisdom already present in a place. In modern life, this means that not every space is ours to dominate. Before entering a family matter, a workplace conflict, a cultural space, a spiritual community, or someone else's territory, a person should learn the condition of the place. Who is involved? What happened before I arrived? What authority is present? What danger is already moving? What wisdom already belongs to this place? Oyeku-Obara did not ask those questions before going toward conflict. That is why the town became a lesson. Uja also gives a modern lesson. Oyeku-Obara thought the conflict was with Ogun, but he learns that the town belongs to Uja, the force and power behind Ogun. In modern terms, this teaches that the person we think we are confronting may not be the whole matter. Behind every conflict, there may be family bonds, institutional authority, emotional history, spiritual meaning, hidden support, or relational power that we do not see at first. A person who rushes into conflict may misread the true structure of the situation. The Oba gives another lesson. Oyeku-Obara is not allowed to simply act and disappear. He is brought before authority. He must name himself. He must explain his reason for entering the town. This shows that consequence can become a doorway to correction. Accountability does not always destroy a person. Sometimes it forces the person to become honest about their intention. Final meaning and closing of this story. The closing of the story shows that Oyeku-Obara's problem was not finished when he survived the danger of the town. He was apprehended, brought before the Oba, recognized as an Ifa priest, settled in the town, and allowed to practice Ifa there. He even prospered. But prosperity did not mean that everything was spiritually completed. This is one of the strongest teachings in the story. Oyeku-Obara prospered in the town, but he still had not made the sacrifice to his head and Eshu. The first instruction remained open. The matter Ifa had named before the journey did not disappear simply because he survived danger or gained success. This shows that survival is not the same as correction. A person can escape danger and still have unfinished obligations. A person can be recognized publicly and still need private correction. A person can prosper outwardly and still carry an unresolved command from Ifa. The story then brings in the matter of marriage. Oyeku-Obara was arranging for a wife to be sent to him from his own town. But he was told that it was forbidden to bring a bride into that town unless he went to another town to marry her. This restriction should not be turned into a broad statement about women or marriage. It belongs to the specific, sacred, and divinatory frame of this Odu. The importance of this moment is that the marriage issue causes Oyeku-Obara to consult Ifa again. When he consults Ifa, he is reminded of the sacrifices he had earlier been told to make. This means the second problem reveals the first unfinished instruction. The story is showing that Ifa's word remains active. Even after time passes, even after danger passes, and even after prosperity begins, the original instruction can return. What was not completed at the beginning still waits for completion later. At that point, Oyeku-Obara finally corrects the omission. He serves his head with a cock. He serves Eshu with a he-goat. After this, he prospers immensely. This does not mean the story is teaching a public ritual procedure. It names the ritual obligation and the materials preserved in the source, but it does not give a full ritual manual. Any practical ritual explanation would require source verification and practitioner review. The deeper meaning is that Oyeku-Obara's prosperity becomes stable only after the neglected instruction is remembered and fulfilled. His head had to be served because his inner alignment, judgment, destiny, and personal spiritual center had been unsettled by pride and fighting ambition. Eshu had to be served because the road, boundary, movement, and consequence had been entered without the proper order. This brings the story back to its beginning. Before the journey, Ifa warned him not to proceed without serving his head and Eshu. He ignored that warning. The road then carried him through disorder, hiding, the Boa's lesson, smoke, capture, public authority, Uja's hidden power, settlement, prosperity, and finally, a second consultation. The story closes by showing that Ifa's first instruction was still the key. The final correction is not that Oyeku-Obara defeats Ogun. The final correction is that Oyeku-Obara returns to what Ifa first commanded. This is why the story is not a heroic fight story. It is a story of correction. The source then gives further divinatory instructions connected to this Odu. When this Odu appears at Ugbodu, the person should serve Ifa with another goat because of an impending catastrophe. The person should also be told that there is a sick person in the house where the Ifa initiation ceremony is taking place. The initiate should be told never to arrange a wife for anyone because his Ifa forbids it. At ordinary divination, the person should be told to serve Eshu with a he-goat without delay to avoid the danger of attack by robbers. These closing instructions must be handled carefully. They are not general modern advice. They are not public ritual procedures. They are not broad rules about illness, marriage, women, men, danger, or punishment. They belong to the divinatory frame of this Odu. The warning about the sick person should not be dramatized as horror or used to blame anyone who is ill. The wife arrangement prohibition should not be turned into a general social rule about marriage. The warning about robbers should not be treated casually or exaggerated. These are serious divinatory instructions preserved inside a sacred context. The closing of this story therefore has two layers. The first layer is narrative correction. Oyeku-Obara finally fulfills the sacrifice to his head and Eshu, and his prosperity becomes immense. The second layer is divinatory continuation. When this Odu appears in specific contexts, the source preserves additional warnings and obligations that must remain under proper ritual authority. For a modern listener, the lesson is clear. Do not confuse success with completion. Oyeku-Obara survived. He was recognized. He settled in the town. He practiced Ifa. He prospered. But the first instruction was still waiting. This teaches that a person can move forward in life and still have an unresolved matter that must be corrected. A person may gain position, money, recognition, or public respect, but if the deeper instruction has not been fulfilled, the matter is not complete. The story also teaches that later problems may reveal earlier omissions. The issue with arranging a wife was not random. It returned Oyeku-Obara to Ifa, and Ifa returned him to the forgotten sacrifice. This gives the story its final moral weight. Oyeku-Obara's fighting nature brought him into danger. His ignored instruction followed him through the road. His identity as an Ifa priest brought him before authority, but did not erase responsibility. The boa taught him that survival requires knowing one's place and nature. Uja revealed that visible power may depend on hidden authority. The marriage restriction brought him back to divination. And Ifa reminded him that the first obligation still had to be completed. The final teaching is this: do not admire the fighting, study the correction. Strength without restraint can block blessing. A person who carries Ifa must not be ruled by ego. Recognition does not erase responsibility. Prosperity does not cancel unfinished obligation. A person with a fighting nature must learn discipline before that nature brings consequence. And when Ifa has spoken, the instruction is not complete until it is fulfilled. Oyeku-Obara entered the road as a fighter. He survived by returning to the responsibility of Ifa. What first appeared as bravery was corrected into humility. And only when the forgotten instruction was remembered and fulfilled did the story come into its final order.